Hello and welcome to today's Full Bay webinar. I'm Jacob Finlay, CEO and founder of Full Bay, and I'm here along with Chris O'Brien, our Chief Operating Officer. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jacob. Good afternoon, everybody.
We're excited to bring you this webinar today. Topic is 5 unexpected tools to help your shop succeed in 2020. And a little bit of housekeeping here first. That's what we look like. Chris is a good-looking guy.
Yeah, the one on the left
is me. Yeah. Housekeeping here. We're using a different webinar tool than we've used in the past. The chat section is going to be on the right. And if you have any questions or anything that you want us to respond to, we'll get to them if we have time. Otherwise, we'll follow up with every single question after the webinar. And just so we can kind of see if this is working, why don't you put over there the state or province that you're calling in from for the webinar, and we'll make sure that that is working over there. Let me just check that here. All right. See those coming in. Thank you. And then we're just going to get right into it here. If you have any questions along the way, once again, don't hesitate to put anything over there on the right. We want to start off talking about GPS tracking, telematics. And in the United States, this has been a big deal with, and I know in Canada too, with electronic logging devices being in every truck. And along with that typically comes GPS. And most fleets have had that in the past, right?
Absolutely.
It's nothing new. And what we wanted to talk about is what we're seeing a lot of shops do is get access to your customers' GPS systems, if they can add you as a user in there and so forth. And this gives you the ability to see certain things that can help you drive business in your shop. So basically, if you can get your customer to give you access to their GPS system, you can see engine hours and mileage data. You can see fault codes. You can even see locations of the units if you need to go service them on site. And what this helps you do is funnel in. So in Full Bay, you can go into a fleet report and, like a spreadsheet, directly enter the current mileage for a fleet, for example. And then that in turn immediately will drive preventive maintenance tracking. So you can then go run PMs and get that information versus having to go on site and do a yard check and get the mileage that way, which can be really time consuming.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with our customer portal, that you can leverage the customer portal to do a yard check. But ideally, if you had GPS technology to integrate, you could automatically pipe that in and be more accurate or hyper accurate on those preventative maintenance intervals.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a way to, if you talk about the funnel, the shop funnel, like what's coming in at the top of the funnel are opportunities for revenue, and the bottom are jobs that are actually done and completed and invoiced. You want to get as much into the top of the funnel as possible, and PMs are a huge piece of that. To the extent that you can get your customers to give you access to their system and get the mileage, engine hours data, and put it in, it's going to drive more PMs, and it can really help you satisfy the customers, so that it's really comforting to know that somebody is on top of the PMs.
Yeah, also what we're finding is with the GPS, a lot of times we have this equipment in remote areas. So we got some power equipment in, in a certain area of town or a certain area of the state or out of state, and you need to dispatch somebody to that piece of equipment. What's nice is with the GPS, typically you have mapping software or mapping features that come with it. So you can quickly identify where it is and pin plot it on a map to actually dispatch someone out to do the repair as well, which is nice. So if you've got the GPS units or your customers have shared that information with you, you can get access to not only the PM information, but actually finding the unit so you can dispatch and get it repaired more efficiently.
Yeah, for sure. And as a bonus, we're also seeing a lot of shops using GPS devices in their own service trucks, which can be helpful for tracking your own PMs, obviously, and also for dispatching. So you know where your techs are, keep them, anybody that's driving shop trucks, help hold them accountable for, not abusing the trucks and so on and so forth. So you know where they've been and where they've driven. So that's a really good tool that we're seeing. And the value here, if you need to kind of talk a customer into giving you access or to track your PMs in general, and we have webinars about that where, you can offer things like maybe you gross up your labor rate, but for customers that allow you to track their PMs, you give them a favorable labor rate in exchange for proactively tracking PMs. As part of this kind of package, you can help them understand that preventive maintenance tracking lowers the cost of the fleet and increases uptime. And everybody kind of understands that, I think, intuitively. So you're not saying that's anything that's crazy, but you are offering them a very actionable, kind of pragmatic way to do that, to track the PMs. So, give us access to your GPS system. We'll take the mileage and engine hours, and we'll use that to proactively go out and maintain your trucks, your trailers, maintain your equipment. And we've got some data on this we can share if you want. We can get you more. Out of service vehicles cost fleets $850 to $1,000 per day, according to industry estimates, and it goes deeper. So,
Yeah,
yep.
absolutely. I mean, coming from a food distribution background, anytime a piece of equipment was down, we literally had to lease another asset, and or if the equipment was down, we had freight on it. And if the freight was late to its destination, we might lose a customer, which could be immediate revenue impact, or we could actually lose the freight because we had refrigerated trailers. And if you had $40,000 worth of refrigerated product and the reefer unit went out from a simple maintenance schedule not being adhered to, you basically have compromised potentially a third of your freight. Usually the core would be good, but by the time you spent all of the labor, there's a fair amount of expense associated with down equipment.
That one battery goes out in a reefer unit, you
Exactly.
lose the whole load. Yeah, exactly. So we want to just see our first polling question. Do any of your customers give you access to their GPS system? Just a quick yes or no, and we'd like to see what that looks like. So if you guys don't mind responding to that, we'll see what it is. And while we're responding to this, we've done some beta testing around this where we have built an integration to two GPS providers out there. And we have baked it in where for those two providers, it's able to send mileage and engine hours information directly in every night. It will check the GPS system and drop it into the unit schedule inside Full Bay, and kind of bridges the gap. So you don't have to go into their GPS system and manually enter it. It grabs it automatically. And what we'd like to see is if you guys have any customers that give you access to their GPS system and you're interested in having that integration turned on inside Full Bay, send us a message. You can send it to the support team and let us know which systems they're using, because two is not enough. There's so many. It's a commodity business out there, and uh, it's the kind of thing that we have to build a ton of these integrations, and it's relatively simple for us to do now that we have kind of the groundwork done.
Yeah, what's also nice too is just the mapping that we talked about. We in our beta software, we've actually got the mapping built as well. So what you're effectively getting is the mileage input automatically, just like or engine hours, just like Jake was referring to, but actually where that piece of equipment is. So if you've got power sprinkled across the state, you're doing business for a large fleet. You need to dispatch out to fix those. Again, that mapping technology we talked about is all baked in as part of this beta group that Jacob just referenced.
Yep, totally. Another tool is emergency dispatch service. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it is if you're running 24/7, receiving emergency dispatch requests, service requests from one of these services like a Fleetnet can be a decent way to bring revenue into the shop. So if that's something that you guys currently do, or you're open to doing it, um, reach out to one of these services and sign up. So basically, mobile technicians dispatch. It's usually a 24/7 thing, or you can pick your hours that you're available. They'll dispatch in service trucks on the side of the road, and it broadens your customer base. So it's not just your existing customer base or anybody that comes to your website. These services are kind of like a AAA for fleets, where they call this service, and then the service in turn reaches out to you as a service provider. And obviously you're helping them when they need you the most on the side of the road, and then it introduces new customer opportunities like that. You
Yeah.
may develop a relationship there with the customer. They're now on your radar, and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I like where you said top of the funnel earlier, where there's leads coming in. So we've got, existing private fleets that you're doing maintenance with. You've got people just stopping by or older relationships. If you're not already signed up with a FleetNet or a group like that, they could bring you more opportunities, more leads, introduce you to more fleets. Usually what they're looking for is, competitive rates and no gouging because they've got contracts to fulfill. But at the same time, reliability. good, honest shops that are going to be there and 3 a.m. in the morning to Sunday at 5 a.m. in the morning or 9 p.m. at night. And it's very lucrative business. It will keep the shop filled. So if your shop's a little bit slow, you're looking for additional opportunities, getting with a third party is definitely an opportunity that should be on the table if you're not already using one.
So another question here. How many of you use currently Fleetnet? Do you currently receive emergency dispatch requests from Fleetnet? So just launching this poll. Curious to see um, whether you guys do or did in the past. Um, we have a thing coming. We'll talk about it at the end of the webinar. But for those of you who do use Fleetnet, looks like it's about an 80-20 roughly group. 20% yes, 80% no. Yeah, we'll end this poll here. That's good information to know. The other thing is, a lot of companies, especially in the current environment, you kind of forced to address what we sometimes call the interruption pyramid. So, what's the appropriate level of communication to get someone's attention? And we just wanted to hone in here on text messages and phone calls. So, it's 2020, right? Pretty much everybody has a mobile phone. They receive text messages. They're probably free. Like hardly anybody's paying per text message anymore or per minute. We wanted to talk about how to keep your team in the loop. So are you alerting your staff to key events with a text message, for example, inside the shop? Do you guys ever text the technicians? And that can be a beneficial thing. And texting, I guess, on that pyramid, sending them a text message is obviously more urgent than sending an email. It's going to get their attention more, but not as urgent as kind of giving them a phone call where their phone rings. So it's kind of in the middle layer. So if you need to alert a technician or anybody in the shop or even a customer to an event, a text message can be a pretty good thing. You've been assigned a job, or hey, we got all the parts in for this thing. You can get going on it. Or maybe texting a customer that a job's ready to authorize. Text message, if you're trying to get a tech out of bed at night, if they are doing maybe a roadside 24/7 roadside dispatch service, a text message may not cut it. You might have to get on the phone and actually place a phone call. So a text message won't necessarily get somebody out of bed. It would need to be a phone call.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is all predicated on, with our software Full Bay, we're doing alerts real time in the application as events are happening. So this is just complementing that. If you're have your techs walking up to the parts counter to pick up parts or talk to the parts counter to say, I need another item, or walking up to the service counter, hey, I need this approved. We're assuming that you already have technology like Full Bay that's instantaneously communicating them with badge alerts, just like Facebook. This is just to complement it. The text messaging side, and the reason, there's a reason we're talking about text messaging and phone calls, because we have a little bit of a teaser where that's something that we've worked on.
We'll talk about that at the very end of the webinar. Yeah.
Absolutely. Waking people up in the middle of the night. It's very hard. You probably have an answering service that handles that. If you don't already have a dispatch answering service, consider looking into that. Having the shop owner try to man the phones all night long is probably unrealistic. So a third party system is critical.
Yeah, for sure. What you see with the more sophisticated shops is in your phone system, you'll turn it over to the after hours number. And so if you do have people that are on call, the after hours number, turning it over involves like entering which person is on call that night. And the phone calls are going to be routed to their cell phone. And they will be getting pulled out of bed in the middle of the night. If you guys aren't using a system like that, it's a ShoreTel or there's a bunch of them out there that will route your phone calls accordingly.
Yep. And they'll do text. And now some do texting, but minimum at routing the calls. I know everybody's either heard of that or some of you are using it today. There's even a better way that we'll talk about
in a minute. Yeah. So texting, it can really speed up communication. So 90% of texts are read within 3 minutes of receipt, and texts have a 99% open rate. So if you need to get a message out to one of your employees or to a customer, a text message can be very effective in getting the word out. 45% response rate. So we wanted to just launch a quick question, just kind of trying to feel the pulse here. Do you currently communicate with your customers via text? Do any of you ever text your customers to let them know that, We're finally taking a look at the truck, or the repair is done, or your job's ready to authorize. Come take a look at it in the customer portal. Do any of you currently text with your customers? And as the responses come in, it looks like it's about flipped with the Fleetnet thing. So it's 80-20 yes, 80%, 20% no. That's good to know. Thank you. All right, moving on. Another tool, accounts receivable management. We're just flying through these. Having worked on the opposite side of a shop, accounts receivable is no fun.
I was going to say, this is right up your alley, right?
Well, I'm not good at it. I'm not a good collections person. It takes a certain skill set of it to do collections. You have to be firm but nice, but also really good at follow up and holding people accountable, but not making them so upset that they're no longer your customer. And there's this kind of rule out there, natural law, that if a customer owes you money, and maybe a COD customer, and you let them go, you just lost the money and the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So
great point.
Being good at accounts receivable management is really important, and making sure everybody's in the loop. Does this customer have credit or not? Are they over their limit or not? Are they past due? So
I think cash too. Cash
yeah.
is king, right? Order to cash. A lot of folks talk about that. We got to get this order to cash process. A lot of our software is built with that workflow in mind, of taking, this order from inception and turning it into cash as quickly as possible, even on the side of the road. But yeah, like I think in some cases we're running into shops with large private fleets that are, carrying 90 days worth of receivables,
Right.
or they're doing, 60, 90 days. And now more than ever, this is one area where you might consider something like an IBS to help you with receivables. So if you're in the situation where a guy like Jacob, smart guy's working for you, and you've got an issue in the receivables area, or you're tying them up all the time or her up all the time on receivables, there's a better way. And these third-party groups that some people call them factoring, but it's really, they're just taking a small portion to manage that, but they're instantly giving you cash. And at the end of the day, if you run out of cash, that's the end of your business.
You don't want to be in the death spiral. Exactly.
Correct.
So when you are, say you do a job for a large fleet, and they have 60-day payment terms, maybe not officially, maybe it's net 30, but in reality, they take 60 days to pay, and you're making phone calls, so on and so forth. If that shop already has credit with an interstate billing service, you might want to take a hard look at getting a relationship with IBS, with interstate billing, so that you don't have to do all the invoices with them, but for those, you now have an option to send it over. And they're going to haircut it. They're going to take their percentage or whatever out of it, but you are effectively acting like a bank when you carry a bunch of accounts receivable. Only you're not a bank. You don't have access to 0% federal funds rates, right? You're left out to dry in a lot of ways. So there's help out there, and really, in some ways, taking that whole piece of collections and so forth, and you could potentially shift the bulk of it over. So Rush Truck Center is a huge success story for IBS, and they still use IBS for growing and scaling. And I'm sure most of us have dealt with Rush. That means we were actually talking to IBS on the phone, because that's who does their AR. In this day and age, you got to be careful about your working capital. You need to make sure that it's expanded as possible, without exposing the owner to too much credit risk.
Yeah, agree. And we often don't realize that hey, if I've got to give 4% or 5% of my ticket, there's other ways to recoup that, right? Whether you're passing that through, or you're just doing the math of, if you have to have somebody talented like Jacob in the room managing those receivables, it actually costs you per transaction, and we don't see that, right?
Yeah.
So you're spending the money. You're spending the money chasing it down. You're spending the money at risk. You're spending the money on write-offs. So it's all there. And if you actually take all of those totals and you divide them into a transaction, I suspect you're going to get pretty darn close to what a group like IBS is.
You might be paying well above 2%.
Correct. Yeah. It's interesting that we, penny wise, pound foolish is, that's a saying that's out there. This is a great example of really look at it, do the math. And if you're not using a tool, at the end of the day, cash is king. You need cash in your bank, available, liquid, to fund your business.
Yep, 100%. So real quick polling question, just once again, getting the feel here. how do you currently handle accounts receivables? Are you doing it all in house? Are you doing it all with a third party? Or are you doing a mix? I imagine it's either a mix or all in house. But while these are coming in, this is probably a good segue to the next section, because one of the things that I thought I was really smart with, really patted myself on the back about, and in retrospect, it wasn't that smart, but it's pretty obvious. A lot of parts houses, they will let you get credit terms, like net 30 credit terms, and then at the end, they'll let you pay with a credit card. So when you pay with a credit card, you have another 30 days to pay it without paying any interest. Now, I'm not advocating getting into a bunch of credit card debt or whatever, and I wholly believe credit cards should be on auto pay. It just gets paid immediately when it's due. So you get the 30 days, but no more, and you never pay interest. But if you think about it, if you get net 30 credit terms with a parts house and then pay with a credit card at the end, you've just got net 60 terms. So if you are forced to stretch out terms with your customers 60 days, if you're able to stretch out with your vendors for 60 days, you kind of match it up,
Yeah.
and you're not as much of a bank, because now you're forcing the parts house to be a bank, parts house / credit card company. Well, one thing to consider, 100% in-house. Every single person on this webinar in-house. There you go.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, the larger what's interesting is you don't have to send it all out to a third party, but a lot of folks will send out a portion of it. So it's not an all or
Yeah.
nothing thing, but that's
Sure.
kind of interesting. That's 100% in-house. I
Sure.
imagine there's some probably great receivables going on, and there's probably some receivables that need some attention.
Probably some great skill sets of collections out there.
Yes.
For those attendees on the webinar, way better than I am. But the segue would be integrated payment processing. So one thing to think about, this just hit me, is yes, we want the parts houses to keep doing that for us, but when you're having conversations about extending credit to customers, maybe it could be, hey, we could give you net 30, but then you have to pay with a check, or you could pay, or how about we let you pay with a credit card, you get your rewards points, whatever, but you got to pay like the day of the repair. So that's kind of the alternative. So because if you're going to take the haircut on the credit card payment in 30 days anyway, why not get your cash 30 days sooner and still take the credit card hit? Does that make sense? So it's something to think about.
It's another form of that third party, right? Having a third party and receivable.
Yeah, exactly. But another tool, integrated payment processing. And by integrated, what we mean is if you have a credit card machine on your table, if you're having to key in the dollar amount on the machine and physically, swipe the card, key in the dollar amount and so forth, and then turn around and key it into another system, into Fullbay or QuickBooks or whatever, that's not integrated. Integrated would mean you bring up the transaction for payment in Fullbay and you send it to the credit card reader that's on your counter, and then it just pops up and it already knows the amount and asks to insert, tap, swipe, whatever your card. That's integrated, where you're not having to double enter it. So with integrated payments, and we offer this with Fullbay, we have a partnership with WorldPay, which is awesome.
Yes.
We have some great devices. The MX915 has got the signature capture on it.
Best device by far.
Is very
Love
good. My understanding is they all support tap.
Yep.
Contactless card payments, which is important today, where you want to keep have as little contact with anything as possible.
Yeah.
So that allows you to process through Apple Pay, Google Pay, any kind of card with the little tap insignia on it or chip. And what's nice about this is it eliminates the double entry. So you're not miskeying, you're not having to double enter stuff, and you can just send it right to the reader. Or if you're keying in, that works too. And then it imports directly into your accounting software. It's something to really take a look at, because the rates that we've negotiated with WorldPay and that they will negotiate with you you shouldn't be able to find a lower rate anywhere. It's about just getting the payment done and processed and through the platform. We're not trying to make a ton of money off of it or anything like that. It's about taking the friction out of the process for you as a shop, where you can take the payment, it's fully integrated, you're eliminating the double entry. And they also have there's a wireless one that you can take on the side of the road, and it does all of it, tap, swipe, everything.
What I love too about the integrated side is, even if you're on the side of the road, you don't even need another device. So a lot of folks that have two devices, they damage the device and they can't take payments.
Right.
We can take what's card not present payments, and some people call it a soft entry. You're basically just pulling up the UI, hand keying the information, and processing the payment in real time. What's also nice about that too is you can tokenize a credit card. So if you're doing business, if I'm doing business with Jacob all the time, I can actually take his credit card one time, tokenize it, have it on the account. It's completely secure on the full base side. It's living in your WorldPay account, so it's completely secure, PCI compliant from a regulatory standpoint. But I don't have to ask for that card every single time I work on Jacob's private fleet or his personal vehicles or whatever. It's just very slick and handy to have that all integrated and tokenized, just to streamline the process even further. And with that tokenization, it just takes it one more step further from the receivable side. Your customers from the Full Bay portal can actually pay their invoices. They can actually just go in there with their tokenized credit card and pay invoices at will. Um,
Hmm. Hey,
so
Chris, wouldn't it be nice if you were to get a text message alert that your customer just went into their portal, added a credit card, and paid an invoice?
is that
That'd be
possible?
nice.
Is there something that you could do about that, Jacob? Do you have something you're going to tell us?
Well, real quick, it's a polling question. Which payment method do you use the most? Is it a standalone card reader? Is it an integrated reader like we were describing, where you don't have to rekey everything in? Check or cash? What's the most common thing that you guys are using so far? Integrated card readers winning out big time. Sounds like we might be preaching to the choir on this one, Chris.
They're using our software.
Yeah.
That's
Well, with
where,
the integrated reader, which is nice,
yeah.
super nice. All right, we'll close this. So it looks like it's a integrated reader and check are the two
Yeah.
biggest. Yeah. Thanks, guys. All right. Kind of bringing it all together. So shop management software, and you can see in this picture, there's a technician. It's kind of a cool setup, by the way. I believe that's an iPad Mini. The case has got a magnetic back to it, so it's like adhering to the toolbox with a magnet. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool guy. I was actually there when this picture was taken, and shop management software. I really like this because it's another tool, right?
Yeah.
The definition of a tool is we are tool builders as people, right?
Yeah.
So a tool is something that enables one person to do the work of many in less time.
Yep.
So theoretically, you could get a lug nut off a wheel with a screwdriver. Theoretically, that is possible. Your knuckles are going to be bloodied up. You're going to be super exercised and upset. It's going to take a lot of time, but theoretically it's possible. Or you could just use the right tool for the job.
Correct.
And the purpose of good shop management software is it's meant to be another tool for running the shop. It enables one person to do the work of many in less time and run the shop efficiently. So there's just, this is what we do. We could talk about this forever, but just kind of the highlights here.
Yeah. Now more than ever, really being hyper focused on your expenses, right? So, and the revenue. So one of the things that we see when we're going through the onboarding stages or bringing in data and talking to customers, or we're at a show, is there's this idea of the labor, how to track labor. We pretty much have that locked down where we're providing instant statistics to the shop owners before invoicing, so we know if we're profitable or not profitable. We're also measuring the technicians from an efficiency standard, and that's one of the highest expenses in a shop is your labor. So if you're not hyper focused, or you're still on paper, or you're trying to do this on QuickBooks or some software that's not managing the labor, there's going to be some gaps, and really shining a spotlight on that and managing it. Sometimes it seems hard when you haven't before, but if you're not managing it, that's the difference between, like, how does a dealership stay in business for 100 years? Well, they're managing that labor line, hyper focused.
It's the old question that shops that are not using effective shop management software, you ask them, if you're paying your techs an average of 40 hours a week, which most shops are, how many hours are they actually billing every week?
Exactly.
And most of them don't know, or they cringe, or they have an estimate and it's not good.
Right.
And that is the number one thing to do to increase the profitability of the shop, because every additional hour that you bill goes directly to the bottom line, because the 40 hours it's a fixed cost. It's already happening.
Yep.
So,
and a lot of folks don't see it this way either. Like, let's say that we were paying you, Jacob, $20 an hour as a mechanic, and we were paying me $20 an hour as a mechanic. our effective rate, if our bill rate is $100 an hour, every hour we're not productive, the shop is losing $100 an hour.
Opportunity cost.
Yeah,
Exactly.
opportunity costs. Some folks just say, "Oh, it was only $20 an hour." Well, no, it wasn't. That was $100 of opportunity right there that we could have been productive. We could have generated an invoice or another hour of billed labor. So you got to maximize that time. And then the other piece too, and it's just to complement the tech efficiency is just parts, right? The ability to track and consume and get those parts on those service orders. We often hear it time and time again. Technicians are manually putting parts on, they're writing it down on pieces of paper, they're verbalizing it to somebody, and they're just forgetting them. They're just forgetting the parts, they're forgetting the cores.
We're human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Not malicious.
no, it's just the law of averages. If you manually touch something enough times, you're inherently going to have errors. It's just the way it is.
So it's increasing your top line, making the techs more efficient, the entire operation more efficient, and then protecting your bottom line, watching your costs. Make sure that you don't have parts walking out the door without getting billed. It's important. It's blocking and tackling. You don't
Yeah.
win games by chucking Hail Marys on every game. You win them by blocking and tackling.
And Jacob, you often say if you have an analogy, if you lose a part, what does it take to recover? If you just lost a part and you
Yeah.
didn't bill it or you lost that core, you have to go sell even that much more because of your margins, right?
Yeah. I mean, say your shop isn't super efficient. You're only making 5%. And you leave $100 part off, you have to go do $2,000 worth of work to make up for that one part that you forgot to bill. It may not seem like a big deal. It's $100, $2,000 worth of work to make up for it because 5% of 2,000 is the 100. You got to go
Yeah.
do a $2,000 job to eke out a 5% profit of $100 to recover that part that you forgot to bill.
Yeah, a lot of folks just underestimate parts. And I will tell you, just about every shop has an issue with parts. And it isn't so much the workflow of parts. The issue is really the discipline to follow a workflow.
Right.
It's hyper critical that your parts are priced, they're received, there's accountability at that receiving, and they're also invoiced at the right markup, right? They're consistently invoiced at the right markup, the right category. And if there ever is a core, that thing is micromanaged all the way back to the vendor. And if you're not doing that, and or if you think that that's a cumbersome process, you're just you're losing money. It's almost like the risk. Shops that fully embrace those workflows have very low risk on losses. Shops that do not embrace those workflows have very high risk on those losses.
Yeah, you're not making more money by not having good shop management software in place. It's the other direction.
Yep, and detailed process within those, especially in the parts.
So we never rest on our laurels, right? Let's just hit this real quick. So we have a couple really good case studies coming out, white papers. So AAA out of Florida saw a 36% increase in labor revenue and a 40% net profit increase after adopting full bay. Equipment experts, Stacy's quote is down there. Full bay's customer portal is impressive and puts us above competitors that may not have something like it. They increase their efficiency by 20 to 25% with full bay. And I know Stacy is a huge stickler at tracking metrics. They have that data. They saw the before and after. So the numbers are there. It's a very pragmatic thing. It is akin to using a lug wrench or an impact wrench instead of a screwdriver to take a lug nut off, right? Same concept.
And a compliment to Stacy. I mean, we've heard it, from just several years ago, where people said you can't monetize mobile technician. Mobile technician's too hard. When you have the right software and you can do order to cash on the side of the road, you can optimize and maximize it. And Stacy primarily is mobile technicians. The whole thing is built around mobile technicians.
Yeah. It's kind of like somebody saying you cannot remove a tire in under 30 seconds. It's impossible. And then somebody shows up with an impact wrench.
Exactly.
So quick question before we give you guys the teaser. So polling question, once again, getting the pulse here. How are you managing your shop's invoicing, parts, service orders, and tech efficiency? Are you guys using FullBay, using another software? Is it pen and paper directly on the accounting software? Just get a pulse there. And like I was saying, we don't rest on our laurels. We do a release every 2 weeks. We do a software update every 2 weeks, constantly improving the usability of the app and filling in what we see as potential functionality gaps as we learn more and more as we grow. And we cater to the larger shops and the smaller shops. And we have greater and greater flexibility to turn things off and accommodate the smaller shops, and to turn some pretty impressive things on to accommodate the bigger shops. And if you're a small shop, you want to be sophisticated, more power to you. You can do it. Thanks
Love it.
for the responses there, guys. So what we wanted to talk about here, um,
So majority on full bay.
majority on Full Bay.
Yeah, yeah.
Great to have you guys.
92%.
So those of you on Full Bay Connect, it's new. This is coming in 3 weeks, scheduled to go live on April 6th, 2020. So today is March 17th. Yay, Full Bay Connect. Now, Full Bay Connect, the biggest thing, some of this is a paid functionality by necessity. So we'll give you more information when it comes. Some things just basically, they just have a cost to them, like text messaging, so on and so forth. So that's there. But some of it's not. So one of the things that is coming is pop-up notifications inside the app that you can subscribe to. So you've been assigned to a service order, or this job is ready to be authorized, or whatever, so that you don't have to constantly be checking maybe the service home or the parts home or whatever. You can be somewhere else in the app, see the pop-up, and then jump right on it and keep the wrenches turning even more.
Absolutely. Super exciting to get that in place. In addition to,
Couple other things.
What
Yeah.
about that dispatching service? Like, why do I have to have it? Can't you just let me know, like, if I'm sleeping, or can't you just call me automatically?
Yeah. So a couple things. So we have built an integration with Fleetnet. So for those of you who are using Fleetnet, you can receive Fleetnet service requests directly inside the app. They show up like any service request. And if it's the middle of the night and your tech is probably not staring at their full base screen, they can get a text message notification if they want. That's new. Or if a text message is not enough to get somebody out of bed, which it probably isn't, you can also have phone call notifications. So you can tie service requests and dispatch requests to phone call notifications that run on the same rails as your dispatch phone system today, your after hours phone system today. So what you can do is you can go in there and put in a phone number, extension, whatever, so that when a service request comes through, you can have it run and call your shop's phone number and alert whoever is on call to get out of bed, get a new service request. So you can use that with Fleetnet or other service requests. You can give your customers the option to submit something as an emergency request if you would like, and that works well. Text message notifications across the board. You can subscribe to a text when myriad events happen inside the app. There is a cost to that, but we think it's pretty reasonable. Fair exchange of value there. The pop-up notifications is just included. You don't have to pay anything for that. It's just coming. These are pop-ups inside the app. What am I missing? Interstate billing service. If you're dealing with them, you can send invoices directly to Interstate billing service, check authorization, credit limits, all within Full Bay, and much, much more.
Absolutely.
The great thing about this is we've built out Full Bay Connect to be a platform. Well, Full Bay is a platform, but this is the integration point, and there will be more and more and more integrations coming in here, connecting Full Bay to other apps that you use or other apps that will be created in the future by us or others. Full Bay being the platform to run the shop. The question then being, what do we connect to Full Bay? And Full Bay Connect enables you to do that.
Absolutely. Super excited to have this. I've been talking about it for a few years and excited to bring it to you, especially this, the text messaging and the pop-up alerts. It's amazing to be able to have that, in addition to all the other features that a lot of you experience. We'll look forward to expanding these features and growing with all of you.
And we have a little surprise coming on April 6th too. And we'll wait until then to show it to you. But that is coming. So just a little preview there. And then finally, if you would like to see a demo of Full Bay, I'm just going to launch this. Just let us know and we'll reach out to you after. And for those of you who are existing Full Bay customers, thank you. And feel free to reach out to us anytime with questions and so forth. We think you're going to really like the ability for Full Bay to alert you to events in-app. Should make the shop go more efficiently. And then we have a lot of great stuff coming as well, all included with the existing functionality and the existing price. So thanks for your time, and we'll end that. And anything else, Chris?
Sounds great. Really appreciate everyone coming today. Look forward to working with you through the rest of the week in the 2020.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We'll talk to you soon.